I bring and keep together my family, my community, other families and communities who live in peace and unity with others. I am unity.
Today is our fifth discussion of the universal law called I am unity. It is one of the 11 universal social laws represented by the guiding principles of peace and unity. In this discussion, we will continue to analyze racism, which is one of the violations of I am unity. We will discuss the economics of racism. The economics of racism is extremely important because it is at the heart of racism and holds the solution for how Black people must address this problem. Normally, we would organize debates and discussions around the violations of the guiding principles of peace and unity. But racism is different because most rational people know its manifestations are objectively evil. So we won't debate it. But the economics of racism must be clearly defined and understood, because as Black people, we must have a correct understanding and an effective way to address it. But before we begin, let's put this into context. Because for Black people, this discussion is about more than economic racism. It's about the universal and social laws and the creation of a true culture for our people. A true culture that will help us address the evils of racism and many of the other problems that challenge us. There are three areas critical to the success of the Black community in Africa and the African diaspora. They are culture, education, and economics. In this series, we continue to examine issues and concepts related to creating a culture to develop self-love, which those who care about the Black community may examine and consider. We will define culture because we always define it. Most people have wrong ideas about culture. We think culture is the music we listen to, or the style of clothing that we wear, or the celebrations and holidays, or whether we eat with a fork, knife, or spoon. Those things and activities are not culture. Culture comes from the word cultivate, which is related to the domestication and growth of plants. Culture is like a gardener who cultivates a young plant by tying it to a stand to have sturdy support, putting it in a certain location, and watering it. The gardener does that to foster the growth of the plant, to become tall and strong, so it won't grow bent and crooked, so it won't become a weed. The gardener does this with labor, care, and study, so that her plants are the best. Culture is a system to cultivate and civilize human beings. This is done by tying our people to universal laws and standards of behavior based on a foundational premise: do good, do no harm. So we will grow strong, not bent and crooked. If you care about the children waving guns in Chicago, if you care about the women and men lost because they have no foundation upon which to build relationships, if you care about the poverty that prevents our families from putting food on the table, you will use labor, care, and study to make sure your people are at their best. Tie yourself, your family, and your communities to the universal social laws called the guiding principles of peace and unity. Then teach them the guiding principles of peace and unity and its premise: do good, do no harm. I meditate to relax in all situations. I am peace. I bring and keep together the families and communities who live in peace and unity with others. I am unity. I learn how to learn. I am knowledge. I create for myself, my family, and my community. I am power. I obey the laws of my family and community that are in harmony with peace and unity. I am law. I do no harm to my family, other families, or my community. I am protection. I choose the feelings, thoughts, and actions that are in harmony with the principles of peace and unity. I am control. I have fun and work with my family and my community. I am cooperation and harmony. I am careful about what I believe. I accept ideas and beliefs that are in harmony with these guiding principles. I am correct ideas and beliefs. With all my heart, I take care of my family, other families, and communities that are living according to the principles of peace and unity. I am devotion. I keep a clean body. I have clean habits. I eat healthy food. I exercise. I care for my environment and planet. I abuse no substance or drug. I am strength. You may download a copy of the Guiding Principles of Peace and Unity and their violations at our website, thegppu.org. And we will teach you how to use the Guiding Principles of Peace and Unity. These laws are how your ancient ancestors built advanced civilizations that lasted for thousands of years. Many of us admire the great pyramids and temples and the obvious wealth of our ancient ancestors. But what created those achievements was our advanced social organization. Social organization based on universal laws. This is what is important for Black people and Black communities to understand today. This is what the Guiding Principles of Peace and Unity will help you do today. Currently, Black communities are living in varying levels of social chaos, corruption, poor health, and economic stagnation as a result of holding on to beliefs and ideas and behaviors from slavery and colonialism. Imagine if these ideas, beliefs, and behaviors which have destroyed self-love within us were replaced by universal laws represented by the Guiding Principles of Peace and Unity. They must be replaced with a culture of self-love based on universal laws. By rebuilding your culture based on universal law, you will revive self-love and bring order, purification, health, and progress back to Black communities. Without culture and the social organization based on these universal laws, Black people cannot advance socially and economically because these universal laws are in your DNA and are who you really are. With the Guiding Principles of Peace and Unity as a foundation, culture will, 1, prepare you for life, 2, foster your growth, and 3, improve you as a person and as a community. Now, back to the universal law, I am unity, and its violation, racism. Economic racism specifically. Economics is important because we as Black people are in this struggle with racism because of economics. But what is economics? Economics is all the things we need to survive and prosper in life. It is the land, water, air, sun, animals, minerals, and human labor and creativity that turn those things and other resources into food, clothing, housing, transportation, healthcare, etc. This is why the historic lands of Black people were conquered. This is why the bodies and labor of Black people were enslaved. The myth of race supremacy and racism are justifications and rationales for economic conquest and control. But economic racism is not a relic of the past. It is the reason for the ongoing discrimination and oppression of Black people today. For example, Black workers in the U.S. earn 30% lower wages than white workers, even in similar jobs. In 2025, the median income for Black households was $46,000 versus $76,000 for white households. Black households typically hold about 3% of the wealth that white households do. 43% of Black Americans own homes versus 70% of white Americans. Environmental pollution of Black communities is economic racism. The theft of Black-owned land and property is economic racism. The destruction of towns and cities built by Black people during the Tulsa, Oklahoma race massacre, the Rosewood, Florida race massacre, the East St. Louis race riot, the Elaine, Arkansas massacre is economic racism. Similar statistics can be seen in the United Kingdom and Brazil. Racists will use the myth of race supremacy to say, well, Blacks are poor and unsuccessful economically because they are lazy, uneducated, have no family structure. But the social scientific data contradicts the racists and their myths. The United States Federal Reserve says that the racial wealth gap did not emerge from individual behavioral differences. The Fed says it was built through 250 years of enslavement, 90 years of legal segregation through exclusion from labor markets, federal housing discrimination, called redlining, exclusion from the New Deal and the GI Bill after World War II. Now we are currently in a situation of de facto segregation, in which economic advantage and disadvantage are created by market-based and government economic racism. The Federal Reserve also says that Black Americans have made substantial gains in high school and college completion rates over the past 50 years. Yet significant wage gaps remain even among workers with the same degrees. The stereotype of laziness is contradicted by labor statistics. Labor force participation rates have historically been similar to, or in some periods, higher for Blacks than for whites. But unemployment rates are consistently higher for Black workers, even when education and experience are comparable. A pattern Fed economists attribute in part to discrimination in hiring. The broken family argument reverses cause and effect. Economic instability increases family stress and instability. Sociologists have shown that unemployment, incarceration, wage suppression, and housing segregation all disproportionately affect Black communities and families, and correlate strongly with family structures and patterns. Mass incarceration policy, for example, removed millions of Black men from the labor market and households. That is a structural intervention, not a racial trait. But what is the solution for Black people? The first and most important solution is to use the universal laws represented by the guiding principles of peace and unity to create functional unity among us. These universal laws will allow you and other Black people to evaluate and judge each other, establish positive relationships, and work with those who are living in harmony with universal laws. Like gardeners, tying ourselves to each other to universal principles and standards of behavior that require that we do good, do no harm to each other, will give us a baseline to determine who we should support and work with to create our own economic paradigm. The second solution is also by living according to a culture of universal laws represented by the guiding principles of peace and unity and its foundational premise, do good, do no harm. These universal laws will allow you and other Black people to evaluate and judge people outside of the Black community based on the consistency of their actions, and judge institutions by their policies and practices. What have they done for you in the past? What have they done for you today? What have they done to you in the past? What have they done to you today? Third, just because the economic development of your ancestors was suppressed due to racism does not mean that you should stop. You must be persistently entrepreneurial, ceaselessly aggressive, and unyielding in your efforts to do two things. First, build Black community economics. Okay, so you create a business and you're involved in some other entrepreneurial endeavor. Good. But how will that business also help the Black community economically? Will it create jobs for Black people? Will it spur other entrepreneurial endeavors and business development by Black people? Second, we must fight economic racism. We must withdraw support from businesses and institutions that take dollars out of our communities but refuse to hire us or do business with us or contribute to our community in any other way. No economic reciprocity, no Black dollars. We will do this together. You are being given the universal laws that made your ancestors great and that can make you great. But it is up to you to choose. No one will force you the way you were forced to accept the ideas, beliefs, and behaviors of slavery and colonialism. You must choose to live according to the universal laws of the guiding principles of peace and unity. You must choose greatness. When you have chosen to live according to a true culture based on universal laws as represented by the guiding principles of peace and unity, then together we can create a new economics and a new world for Black people. In the description below, there are links as well as a PDF about the economic information and data I've talked about. Watch the following video about Malcolm X. It will show you an example of how to create a culture of self-love based upon the universal law called I am control. Do you know an I am control hero like Malcolm? Nominate that person for the I am control award at higherselfawards.org. Until we meet again, do good, do no harm.
Celebrate the enduring legacy of Malcolm X by nominating a hero for I Am Control Award. The I Am Control Award represents Malcolm's unwavering commitment to Black empowerment and self-sufficiency. Nominate individuals and organizations that embrace that same commitment, channeling the spirit of a leader who inspired change through eloquence and action. Join us in using the I Am Control Award to find and celebrate today's Malcolm X's. Who is that person or organization with Malcolm's love of Black people and his courage in the face of seemingly insurmountable evil and opposition? Who do you believe will stand for the physical, mental, and spiritual well-being of Black people and carry forward the fighting tradition of Malcolm X in the fields of life management, guidance/mentoring, drug abuse rehabilitation, and anger management? Who are the living ancestors? Nominate a hero at higherselfawards.org.